Good morning. Thanks so much for being with us. So, the costs expected to be more than double. How did they skyrocket from the initial assessment?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The cost estimates have ballooned in British Columbia to the point that taxpayers can't really afford it anymore. A big reason why these costs have ballooned so dramatically is the two extra games that the province is hosting, but also politicians just seem unable to stick to their own budgets. That's an issue when more British Columbians than ever are turning to food banks and housing is getting more and more unaffordable here in our province.
So, what do you make of the position of the BC government saying we're going to be able to offset these costs by a few different measures, and we've also got the feds helping us out? What goes through your mind when you hear that?
Well, even with these new funding mechanisms that the province, the city, and the federal government are kicking in here, we're still looking at these World Cup games losing BC taxpayers about $140 million. So even with the government's revenue projections from all three levels of government, we're still going to see a $140 million loss as a result of hosting these games. Now, that makes a really bad business case for British Columbia hosting just seven of these FIFA World Cup games.
But what about all the money it's going to bring into the economy with tourism, people visiting, spending money, eating out?
Yeah, those kinds of justifications don't really add up when you really start breaking down the numbers. So look at Toronto. They're only projecting under $120 million in indirect revenue as a result of these World Cup games. That's things like people eating out while they're in town or staying at local hotels. So in Toronto, even with the funding mechanisms they're coming up with, they're only going to see about $120 million in net revenue. The same seems to be true in BC. The government hasn't provided a clear business case for how local businesses are going to benefit. Frankly, I think the government would be better off just handing 500 random British Columbians $1 million than expecting us to believe that this revenue is somehow going to trickle down to normal taxpayers.
What is your sense, Carson, as to how excited people are about these games being in the province?
Look, we're still a few years out, about
Hmm.
2 years away from the World Cup coming to Vancouver. But you have to remember here, we're only hosting a tiny fraction of the overall event. There's going to be about 104 games, and Vancouver's only hosting seven. That's about 6% of the total tournament. So we're hosting a very tiny amount of games and paying a whole lot of money to do it.